I can't emphasize how important getting into early intervention is. As I travel around the country right now, I'm running into 3-year-olds with no speech being put on 2-year wait lists. That's
Yeah.
absolutely unacceptable. And I tell those parents, you've got to start working with these kids now, get some students to work with these kids, because you can't just let them zone out on phones for 2 years. That's the worst possible thing you can do.
Welcome to Mother's Guide Through Autism podcast. I'm Brigitte Shipman. I'm your host, and today I have the great honor of having a very special guest. This is somebody who Joseph and I have been following. Dr. Temple Grandin has changed our lives, and I know for those of you listening, you're going to relate to it. She's done so much for our community. She's a scientist, an inventor, best-selling author, and one of the most influential autism advocates in the world. But long before she became a household name, she was a little girl who thought in pictures, didn't speak until she was 4, and whose mother refused to give up on her potential, even when the world told her otherwise. In this conversation, we talk about what it is like growing up feeling different, how her mom helped her build communication and confidence, and what parents can do today to support visual thinkers, non-speaking children, and budding inventors of all kinds. Welcome, Dr. Temple Grandin.
It's great to be here.
I would like to start out by asking about your childhood. Did you
Okay.
know you were different? What did you notice?
Well, actually, my childhood went quite well. I went into a very good early educational program. 2 teachers ran out of the basement of their house. And I can't emphasize how important getting into early intervention is. As I travel around the country right now, I'm running into 3-year-olds with no speech being put on 2-year wait lists. That's
Yeah.
absolutely unacceptable. And I tell those parents, you've got to start working with these kids now, get some students to work with these kids, because you can't just let them zone out on phones for 2 years.
Right.
That's the worst possible thing you can do. Now, the big things that my program emphasized when I was 3 was speaking. The other thing was turn taking at games, making up all kinds of little games where you have to wait and take turns, and then skills like eating with a utensil. Those were basic things that were done with me. But I also tell moms they can't do it all themselves. Get some students in, get some volunteers in. And I have found that some people know how to engage these kids and some don't, but you can't let them sit in the corner for 2 years.
Yeah.
You've got to start working with them. And
I
maybe we're going to call it church play or library play for legal reasons, but
Yeah.
you got to start working with them. We'll just say it that.
Yeah, I agree. As a mom of an adult now, Joseph's now 33, I can tell you that exactly what you're saying. I try to have him have experiences where he could file it away and know that it was okay to go to a barn, even though the fans were super loud. So exposure. I love that you say that. You know, that, and this happened to Joseph too. Doctors recommended to put him in an institution. And when you were young, that was also.
That was the thing that was done with kids like me, because I was very severe as a kid. And fortunately, the first doctor I went to was a neurologist. That was good. And
Yeah.
he recommended the speech therapy school. And I had no epilepsy. They checked for deafness and for epilepsy. So you got a 3-year-old's not talking, you've got to make sure they're not deaf. And then you better get to work on them now. You can't wait 2 years.
Yeah, was that a scary experience for you? Do you remember any of that?
I remember the hospital had a little child's bed with lots of toys and dolls in it. I remember that. I think they really tried to be kid friendly.
Yeah, that's important too, because it can be scary. I remember Joseph being afraid of a lot. In the early days too at home, I know that your mom did specific things day to day, helped you, right? So what were some of those language or connections even
Well,
before
one of
you?
the things they do in the 50s is not done now. And I have so many grandparents come up to me to get diagnosed later in life. In the
Yes.
50s, grown-ups corrected children. The lady at the post office would correct you. The supermarket, if you did something and you were throwing things around the supermarket, the customers corrected kids. That was the norm in the 50s. And they did a method called teachable moments. Okay, let's say the kid pulled the Campbell's soup off the shelf. Instead of screaming no, they'd say, put it back on the shelf. They'd give the instruction instead of screaming no.
Yeah.
If I stirred my juice with my finger, mother or somebody else would say, use the spoon. People think that's disgusting when you use your finger. So they would give the instruction. That was, social things were taught much more structured. You were like, if I forgot to say thank you, mother would cue me. You forgot to say, but other adults also cued me. That's the way things were done in the 50s.
Yeah, yeah, I can relate to that. And honestly, I think it worked pretty well. Like you say, you had a pretty good
I'll
childhood.
tell you, teenage years were horrible.
Teenage years were
They were
horrible.
terrible.
Oh,
And I got kicked out of ninth grade throwing a book. A regular school did not work for me. And I ended up going to special school. They put me to work running the horse barn, cleaning 9 stalls every day, learning working skills. A lot of these kids are not learning working skills. They're not the same as academic skills. And
yeah.
the big mistake that's being made is they should be learning working skills before they graduate from high school. And that's going to start with paper route substitutes. I know those are gone now, but it's very, very important for that kid to learn how to do a task on a schedule where mom and dad are not the boss. It would be the minister at the church is the boss. It's Mr. Jones's dog they walk. A job for somebody outside the family. That
Yeah.
could be the new paper route substitute, age 11.
And you feel like that really helped
Oh,
you.
yes.
You
Yes. And I was 13. Mother got me a sewing job with a local seamstress that just did dressmaking out of her house.
did you enjoy that?
Yes, I did. I
You did.
liked money, and I enjoyed the job. And my job was to take apart dresses that she was altering and to hand hem them.
Okay. And so do you still sew from that experience?
One of my pants ripped, and I sewed it up. Yep,
Well, I
I still do some of that kind of sewing.
I hate to admit it, but I am not good at that. Nor, I mean, my mother tried to get me to, but that's not something that I took to. So, but those are really, really great suggestions. They don't have to be extreme. Just find something for,
Well, I talked to Mom the other day. There was a nursing home the kid could walk to. He was 12. He became the nursing home entertainment director. Would do bingo night and things like that.
wow.
That was something, that's somebody I talked to real recently. This is not in the 50s. Somebody I talked to just a month or something ago. It was something that Mom just figured out in the neighborhood that cost nothing to implement.
Yeah. What a great idea, too.
Yeah.
Because I talk to moms all the time, and I think all these suggestions are so helpful that are not, like I said, where you have to go out and find somebody. It's right there in your community.
Well, the dressmaking shop, Mother did have to drive me to it. It was too far away. But there might be another place where it wouldn't be far away.
Mm.
And in fact, there's houses right on the main street in Fort Collins that do dressmaking. And there was a little lady that got kicked out of her shopping center because they're remodeling it. And she went right over to that chain link fence on that construction site, and she put her name up with her new address, and she tied little signs on the fence. Well, and telling where her business is located now, because I had a jacket fixed by her.
Oh, that's such a great story. Yeah, you talked about being nonverbal until,
Yeah, I can remember I could hear what people were saying if they spoke slowly.
okay.
If people spoke fast, it went to gibberish. And I can also remember the frustration of not being able to talk, the absolute total frustration. You've got to give these young ones a way to communicate. Could be some signs, it could be a picture board, but something to communicate with.
Yeah. I get so many questions about, they refer to it as meltdowns now, where when a child does get frustrated because they're nonverbal, you don't know how to help them, you don't know what's going on.
Well, you have to look at what brings on the meltdown. It could be frustration with not being able to communicate. It could be sensory overload if it's in the middle of a busy Walmart or someplace like that. Maybe it's sensory overload. With older nonverbal individuals, I have been getting horror story after horror story of hidden painful medical problems. that nonverbal individual can't tell you about. Serious urinary tract infections, really bad stuff. And let's say you have a nonverbal older child or adult, and their behavior's been good. Now the behavior's terrible. There's a really good chance they got a hidden painful medical, ear infection, toothache. Acid reflux is a real big one. Things, yeast infections, things that they can't tell you about. One of the things I want to do, especially with an older child or adult that now's had good behavior, now it's all of a sudden turned bad. Well, let's do the urine test for the infection. Look in the ears.
Yeah.
Just do some basic stuff to track down some of the more common hidden painful medical problems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great suggestion because they are acting out for a reason. There's always a reason, right?
Because they're hurting.
Yeah. And I can relate to some of the stories as well. And when you think in pictures, what does that actually look like in your mind?
Well, my memory is sort of like pictures on your phone.
Okay.
Things that attract my attention, it's like snap. My mind takes a picture of it. Do I remember every hotel room I've been in? No. I only remember the really dirty and the really weird.
Yeah.
And the rest of them, I don't remember because they don't interest me. And then as I get more and more experiences, I get a bigger and bigger picture library.
What a interesting way to look at the world because Joseph, my son, is also a visual thinker. And he's taught me a lot, but I have a lot to learn still. I'll admit that. But what are some of the learning materials like for our visual thinkers?
One of the big problems is they can't do algebra. And I'm concerned that all these algebra requirements are going to keep them out of a lot of things. I worked with people that were definitely autistic that owned big machine metal fabrication shops, and they couldn't do algebra. And they were building all kinds of custom-made equipment for the beef industry. And what's happening now is those people have retired out and they're not getting replaced. And I discuss that in my book, Thinking in Pictures. And we've got some serious problems. It's my book right here, Visual Thinking. I have Thinking in Pictures is my older book, my autobiography. But this book I did during COVID. And I'm very concerned that we're screening out our visual thinkers. And they often have very good mechanical aptitude, very good at fixing things. And with AI, it's going to be taking over a lot of jobs. They're going to really push the trades for the visual thinkers, high-end trades. I'm not talking about laying floor tiles.
Right.
I'm talking about the high-end stuff. Expert crane operator, for example. Things like this, inventing mechanical equipment. And it's interesting, the military values mechanical aptitude. Our educational system doesn't.
True.
And I think it's a big problem because we need these minds. And some of your best people for figuring out how to fix things are visual thinkers. See, there's two parts of engineering. Here's the visual thinking part, and then there is the mathematical part.
Indeed. And that's really important to know.
And I talk about, the jobs, and, like right now, a lot of beginner programming jobs that some of the more mathematical minds would be good at are AI is going to be doing. And so I'm going to push the things that AI is not going to be able to do. If it's hands-on, AI is not doing it.
That's true.
Foreseeable future.
Yeah. And like I said, I've been following you for many years. And your autobiography book, Thinking in Pictures, was very important for me at the beginning of Joseph's journey. And I was a teacher and I would show that movie just so we could understand autism a lot better. But you've done so much more work like with this new book that you have. And I love how you address the educational system and things that we should be doing and encouraging our kids to try stuff.
Well, the other big problem I'm seeing is not making the transition to work. And I'm seeing kids graduate from college with high honors and not able to handle the workplace. They need to be working, doing jobs before they graduate from high school, before they graduate from college. That would be ideal. I want to emphasize it's never too late to start. There's been video game addicts that have been weaned off with car mechanics, and they found out that the motors were more interesting, and they got into jobs, decent jobs.
Yeah, I think it's important for parents and teachers to learn to communicate better with our visual kids. What are some ways that we can do a better job communicating?
First thing is you have to realize different kinds of thinking exist.
Right.
And I'll say the same thing to business leaders. Because autism fully verbal autism comes in like three types. Object visualizers like me that are horrible at algebra and they're good with mechanical things, animals, and art. And I'm going to push the mechanical stuff because a lot of the run-of-the-mill kind of bread and butter art jobs like doing an ad for a local car dealership, those are going to get done by AI. There's still going to be a market for real high-end hand-done art. And then you have your mathematical thinkers. And they're your degreed engineers,
Mm-hmm.
but they think much more abstractly.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, the problems we're having with the equipment right now, they're making the same mistakes that were made. One plant's making the same mistake was made 36 years ago.
And
I've got to just write some more beginner articles on this stuff. Got to do it, but I'm very worried. You see, common sense, I think, is visual thinking. Okay, like I'll see somebody on a plane put a cup of water on their open laptop. In fact, I was just doing a speaking engagement where they had one of those silly little plexiglass lecterns. I don't like those at all. And the computer was on a table, and there was no place to put my water away from the laptop. And I asked for a table to put the water on because I can get kind of klutzy. I just spilled nice tea all over the place today, and I didn't want to wreck their laptop. I want a table where I can put the water, like there was no shelf on the lectern, away from the laptop.
yeah.
That's seeing risk.
Yeah, and that is common sense, but it's exactly what the point that you're trying to make is we don't all see things that way, right? I mean,
You're probably verbal, but you see, the first step
Mhm.
is realizing people think differently and they have different skills. Where I have a deficit is if someone tells me 6 steps on how to do something, I cannot remember that sequence. I need to write it down and make a pilot's checklist. And you need to teach individuals how to write down how to clean the espresso machine or whatever. Because the bosses get mad and say, well, I already explained this 6 times. Are they stupid? I don't remember verbal sequence well.
Mhm.
I teach them to make pilot's checklists.
I think that's an important skill. I know for Joseph, without a checklist, he won't remember. And again, it's not because he's stupid, it's just
No,
because his
but
brain
you see
is gonna-
things like when I first started, there were visual thinking mistakes that were made on pieces of equipment, and I used to call it stupid. Well, I
Mm,
don't do that now.
yeah,
The problem is that they don't see it,
exactly.
and that's not being stupid. So I tell business leaders, I say, your first step is that you have to realize that people think differently, and then a lot of people are mixtures of the different kinds of thinking, but one kind of thinking usually predominates. A person's going to be more mathematical and think in patterns,
Yeah.
or they're going to be more visual. They just
Mhm.
see how things work.
Yeah.
I think common sense is visual thinking.
Yeah. Yeah, and not very many people have common sense, which I've
But
noticed.
I'm worried that our educational system is screening out the visual
Yeah,
thinkers. And I have a chapter in my visual thinking book called Screened Out.
yeah. I'm so glad you wrote that book. I think we all need to rethink the way things are and put a change into the system of the way we learn, the way we work.
But I'm worried about all these math requirements. Like, I'd have no problem going to vet school. It's the
Hmm.
prerequisites. Algebra and calculus. I don't know any vet that uses either one of those things. There's a tiny amount of algebra for drug dosing, but that can flat be memorized.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you see the pills and the medicines when you think about those formulas.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%.
My big push right now is I'm very concerned that our visual thinkers are getting screened out,
Yeah.
not be able to graduate from high school. I don't know if I could graduate from high school in New York or California because of
Hmm.
all the math requirements.
Right.
Now, the kind of math that someone like me should be learning is math specific to something like designing a hydraulic system on a piece of equipment.
Hmm. And
In
that,
that situation, I can learn the math because I see the piece of equipment.
uh,
This math related to hydraulic equipment, and hydraulic equipment, no matter what you're running, has a lot of things about it that's the same.
Yeah, yeah. Like I had shared with you earlier that my son Joseph can't do algebra either. Well, he can, but he does not do it well.
And what's he doing now?
Well, he is currently has a full-time job as a custodian
Oh, yeah.
at a college 2 hours away from me. So he's doing well. He's independent, pays his bills, but I always picture Joseph walking into a classroom and he would be the best teacher, but he doesn't have the qualifications because not going to pass algebra. Exactly what you're saying.
Well, this is the problem. I have no people have 20 patents
Yeah.
for mechanical devices
Hmm.
and good patents, not silly patents, good ones. And they can't do algebra.
And that's what's keeping him from that. I mean, he would make a fabulous teacher, very good at it, but
Well, it depends. You say now you have someone like teaching art or teaching, well, woodworking or something like that. There's a lot of places you could probably teach that without the degrees, just by showing off the portfolio of your projects.
yeah,
Oh, show the work.
yeah, that's great. I think really leaning into strengths versus what can't I do, but what
Well,
can I?
there needs to be a lot more emphasis on the strengths
Yeah.
because the visual thinkers can just see how to build things.
Hmm. Yeah, and supporting that as
Yeah.
a parent.
But I've been actually done a little bit of consulting, one of the largest construction companies in the world, and complicated work on industrial stuff. I went out and watched them place some roof panels on a tank, one of these jobs, and I go, there's a lot of know-how. That's the visual thinking. It doesn't get enough credit.
Mm, I agree.
A
Yeah,
lot of know-how,
yeah,
and the
yeah.
know-how's retiring, and this is an issue. And when I worked out in construction all the time, I worked with people that owned shops that were definitely autistic, undiagnosed.
I can see that. Yeah. I meet so many people now that come up to me and they say, "Do you think that I might be on the spectrum?" And I'm like, "Well, if you wonder it, it's worth checking out."
You can usually read enough books and stuff and kind of figure it out. I mean, autism on the fully verbal end is a true continuous trait. When does geeks and nerds become autism? And it's now official. Bill Gates is on the spectrum.
Yeah.
And he's got a book that's titled Source Code.
Source code. What is
He's a
that?
mathematician. Now, Bill Gates and I's upbringing was very, very similar. We
Okay.
both had to sell things for candy when we were young. That taught you how to talk to people.
Mm,
And we also both had to be, when we were like 9, hosts and hostesses at parents' parties. Learn how to talk to grown-ups, greet the
mm,
guests, take their coats. Now, where we were different, we both were exposed to the same computer, teletype computer system. I was in college. He was like 12. He took
mm.
off with it. I had to drop the class. He's a mathematician. I'm not.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
where we're different. And then both of us, when we were young kids, he was put into scouting. I did a lot of, in the summertime, we had kind of an informal neighborhood group where they, was a leader and we'd play softball, we'd go blueberry picking. I mean, we'd do different, kind of activities, get them out of the house. And one thing we just can't do is let them just veg out on devices all day.
Yeah, I agree. And I wonder, as you were exposed to all that, do you feel like that was what helped your social skills?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Now it's still socially awkward. When I was in high school, I'd go on and on talking about a carnival ride over and over and over again till the point where everybody else got bored. Now I've kind of learned you tell that story twice and then that's it.
Yeah, I would watch my son when I was still at the school at lunch duty, and he would go from one group of kids to the next and try to figure out how to get in the conversation. And that's how he just would go from one to the next, one to the next. And finally, I asked him, and he said, "It's because they're boring." His peers were boring to him.
Well, the thing is a kind of chit chat conversation that people do where they have so much fun, they might laugh almost rhythmically. One problem I have is I can't follow those conversations.
Uh-huh.
My processor speed is too slow. Now I can get one-on-one talking deeply about some subject that can interest me.
Yeah, that's my son too. He's fascinating. I always tell tell people if you'll sit down with him one-on-one, you'll
What
be,
does he like?
oh my goodness, he's a musician. He's in the art
Well,
area.
maybe he could play in a band.
Yeah, he is a very good musician and he's also very good on the radio, believe it or not. We
Okay.
had mentioned that. So trying to get him into radio ads or something like that, I think he's just very good at it.
Well, maybe he needs to start working in a small local radio station.
Yes. And he did that for a while and then he got a girlfriend and moved 2 hours away. So he
That he
fell
was
in love.
working in and does he have a girlfriend now?
Yes. Yes.
I hope that's going well for him.
It is. And she found out she was also on the spectrum. So I think they
Okay.
communicate very well
Well,
together.
maybe that's going to work out just fine for him.
I hope so. Yes. So when you have written many books and spoken to countless audiences, what is the one message you never get tired of sharing?
Well, I have a lot of things. I talk about the early intervention
Yeah.
is important. I talk about developing strengths. I
Mhm.
talk about learning job skills early, if possible. I'm seeing too many kids that are 16 years old, fully verbal. They're so overprotected, they've never gone shopping by themselves.
Oh,
They're
wow.
not learning banking,
Mhm.
just the most basic stuff. The other thing is learning driving, and that's going to take longer. More practice in a totally safe place. I learned on my aunt's ranch on back dirt roads. Mailbox was 3 miles away. That was 6 miles of practice every day on a dirt road.
Yeah. And were you ever nervous about it or
Well, I was. In fact, the Department of Motor Vehicles back in the 60s was on the Fort Huachuca Army base. The ranch was right near the Army base. Failed my first driving test. Fort Huachuca was pretty easy driving. Passed my second one, and I was really nervous. But I didn't go out on busy freeways for an entire year.
yeah.
Let's work into it slowly. But they
Yeah.
need to learn to drive. And a lot of parents are afraid. I said, let's start out in the middle of a giant parking lot where there's nothing to hit.
Yeah.
And I say a totally safe place. Let's start in a totally safe place.
hmm That makes sense. I really was so happy that Joseph really wanted to drive. A lot of the kids
Good,
don't want to drive.
good. Well, that's good that he did. That's
Yeah.
really good.
So I agree with you. I think that gives them independence. It's an important skill to have.
That's right. Absolutely.
One thing I also wanted to talk about was so many parents worry about whether their child will be independent or find meaningful work. Based on your experience, which you have quite a story, what do you want to tell parents? What's the one thing we can do to help our kids become independent?
Well, you've got to start letting them do stuff like shopping by themselves.
Okay.
I'm appalled at the amount of 16-year-olds who've never gone shopping. I've taught kids shopping in the airport.
Yeah.
They come up to me and they want to get a picture, and then I find out that this 12-year-old, fully verbal, has never gone to a store by herself and bought something. So I gave her a $5 bill and I say, you see that shop across the hall? Go buy something.
Yeah.
And she went over there and bought a drink and brought me back the change. First
Oh,
time she'd shopped by herself.
that,
Little baby steps like that.
yeah. Just let them have independent moments, would you say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were right there. The gate room where we were sitting in the gate room, I could see the store. It was no more than 50 feet away. But a lot of moms are really scared, and they're scared to work on the driving.
Yeah.
They said they're scared to. I said, let's start in the middle of the stadium parking lot Sunday morning at 7 a.m. in the morning. Nobody's there. That's where we start.
hmm Yeah. So what I'm hearing is the best thing we can do is let our kids try stuff.
Well, and we start out in baby steps. I didn't send her to the other end of the airport. The store was right there. We could
Yeah.
see it
Yeah.
where we were sitting waiting for our flights. We were both on the same plane.
Yeah. I was so impressed. I watched your documentary and just
Oh,
the
the HBO. Which one? There's the HBO
open
movie
door.
Temple Grandin, and then there's the Open Door. Then
Yeah.
the documentary that's about my later life. And
Yeah.
no actors in that. That's all interviews and interviewing me. And then the HBO movie, my earlier life. They show my projects accurately. They show visual thinking very accurately in the
They-
HBO movie. And Claire Danes was so good at imitating my voice that I almost mixed her up with me listening to a radio interview.
That is great acting. She did a wonderful job. Like I
Great job.
told, I
There's a
showed
new documentary that Colorado State put out called
Mhm.
An Open Door, and that's my later, more professional life.
Yeah. But you say you have very valuable lessons, but the one takeaway I had was how generous of a human you are. You are such a giving person. I know that the reason that we got to do this interview is because I know Grant
Yeah,
and
that's right. Yeah,
the jigsaw
yeah.
puzzle
Jigsaw Grant. Yeah.
and his artwork, and what a mentor that you've been to Grant.
Well, and I've taken my book money and my speaking engagement money, and I've put 23 students through masters and PhDs in animal science, animal behavior. That's what I've done with the money that I've earned. And writing, you see, like one of the things I've done cattle handling stuff is writing. And one thing I've always did is I'd write lots of how-to articles.
You know, I have a friend, I wanted to ask you this question. And for a child that, well, he's not a child, he's actually 23,
Yeah,
and he thinks in numbers
yeah.
rather than pictures.
You know, he's more of the mathematical type.
So how do you
And how
help?
old is the child now?
He is actually, he just turned 25, big birthday, and she would like to help to decode a mathematical child. He
One
thinks,
of the things that needs to be done with math kids is don't bore them with baby math.
okay,
Move them ahead. Move them ahead. Math kids get very naughty when they're bored. Very naughty. Okay, hacking into the school's computer system might be the least bad thing they do.
oh,
They need to be challenged with more advanced math. And don't give me reasons why you can't do it.
yeah.
The high school math class on a laptop in fourth grade, turn the kid's desk around so you make sure the math program is up. And there's a lot of older students and high school teachers that would love to work with that kid. Don't give
Yeah,
me a reason why you can't do it.
he does have limited language, right? So
Okay.
he'll just shout out numbers, and she doesn't know what he's trying to say or communicate. So
Well,
it's,
maybe somebody more mathematical would.
I see.
Maybe somebody more mathematical would figure out what he's trying to do with the numbers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's a different kind of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's an interesting book by Daniel Tammet called Born on a Blue Day. But the big problem I'm seeing with math kids is they're not being challenged. They're doing little baby math and they
Mm-hmm.
become awful behavior problems. You might have a fourth grader that needs to do high school math. They may need special ed in reading them. That tends to be the pattern.
Yeah. I
But
had,
move them ahead in math and don't give me some nonsense
yeah,
that's not age appropriate.
yeah. So the problem as a teacher is that the educational system requires you can't move a child forward if they're not mastering the language part too, right?
Well, I'm not leave them in the fourth grade classroom.
Ah,
You just put through the math on a laptop.
yeah.
Khan Academy. And I would turn his desk around, even though wouldn't understand some of the math. I want to make sure he's on the math program and advancing. And then I would try to get a college student or maybe a high school math teacher. A lot of times math teachers will get interested in math geniuses that will check in on his work and help him. No, you just turn his desk around. I want to make sure that the math is up on the laptop. I can see what's on the laptop. I don't need to understand it. I just need to see these progressing through the program, and I would probably talk to the high school math teacher once a week. That's all it would take.
Yeah,
No, and he's going to be with the rest of the class for the other stuff. You see, I just see that.
yeah.
I just see that.
That's amazing.
And then I'm seeing an Uber driver that's teaching computer science at a community college, and he has a kid that's kind of autistic, and they gave him all this nonsense why his fourth grader couldn't do higher math, and he got after the school and got after him until they finally let him do the math program on a laptop. Yeah, I'm not saying neglect the reading,
hmm
but when the kids are doing their little easy math, he can be doing his advanced math on the laptop.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Accommodating.
a lot of the programs are free. Khan Academy stuff is free. There's
Mhm.
tons of free stuff online.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a lot of rubbish online, but that's why I'm going to turn the desk around, because I want to see what's on the laptop. And it better be math I don't understand and not anything.
Yeah. Yeah. That wouldn't be hard for me to have math.
That's not hard to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you should give you 1,000 reasons why they can't do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I just see it. I'm seeing it in my fourth grade classroom, my little fourth grade classroom. Now they didn't have laptops in them, but now I've teleported my mind a laptop to that classroom. We had these big old wooden desks that still had the inkwell hole. Turn that desk around, and that laptop is on it. In my old fourth grade classroom, I can
Yeah.
create that image.
Wow. Yeah, I hear that. And it's so hard for someone like me. I follow you and I understand it, and then I forget. I'm like, "Oh yeah, Joseph is so visual. I have to speak a different language with him." I wanted to ask you one more question
Okay.
that I get a lot from mom.
Okay.
If they want to support, you've given us so many great examples of support. What's the best support you've gotten from anyone?
My high school science teacher.
Ah,
He worked with me for 3 years. I was a bored student, terrible student, not interested in studying. He gave me interesting projects to do, which made studying become a pathway to becoming a scientist. He was probably one of the most important mentors. He worked with me in high school, and he worked with me when I first started college.
wow.
Super important. And he was not a licensed teacher. He
He
was
must,
a NASA space scientist that had a cool shop.
oh wow. And he just took you under his
Yep.
wing.
And he had no credential.
Mm. I told you that was my last question, but I have another one just real quick.
Okay.
What's the best thing that I can do as a mom for my child?
Well, I have to talk some age ranges here. The little ones, you just got stuck on a 3-year wait list. We're going to have to start church play and
Yeah.
library play now. For legal reasons, we don't call it therapy.
Uh-huh.
You have to do it yourself. Don't wait.
Okay.
And okay, let's say elementary school kid, no friends, bullied in high school. Let's work on getting friends who shared interests. Can't emphasize enough the importance of friends who shared interests.
Mm-hmm.
Sensory issues are real. There's some individuals that can see LED lights that flicker.
Yeah.
That can be a real serious problem. Not for everybody, but for maybe 20% of them. If you're building a new school, test the lights that you're going to buy with your iPhone set on slow motion video. You will find the bad lights that flicker. That's the
Mm.
single most architectural thing that needs to not be in new construction.
Okay.
And that's going to be a problem for your head injury veterans and some dyslexics. It's only a subgroup, but for certain people, it's a real problem. And sometimes reading on colored paper is helpful. Doesn't work for everybody, but
Oh.
try some pale pastel colored paper. Like you might try this pale light blue like this.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that helps. You
Great
try
suggestion.
different pale colored papers, and it stops the print from jiggling. Now, one of the problems we got on that with evidence-based is if you take all the dyslexics, they say, well, it doesn't work. It only works on 10 or 15% of them.
Ah,
But when it works, and you know instantly.
yeah.
It's colored paper. It can't hurt you. It's
Yeah.
cheap. And you try light gray, light tan, all the pale colors. Just take a page of a book and print them on the different pale colored papers down at the print shop. And when it works like magic. And probably for 80% of them, it will have no effect.
Hmm.
But there's
But
some
it's worth a
people where
try.
that really works. I like to, have simple things that people can try. The pilot's checklists,
Sure.
tasks involving sequence, like cleaning an ice cream machine. Write it down, the tear down steps, cleaning steps, reassembly steps, like a
Mm.
pilot's checklist.
And that would be beneficial in the workplace too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because then the boss will say, well, I already showed you how to clean that machine 5 times. Are you stupid?
Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
I don't remember sequence well.
yeah. Neither does Joseph at
Yeah,
all.
that's where he also needs to be taught to make his own checklists.
Yes. And sometimes I'll call him and he'll say, I forgot to do my checklist. And I'm like, well, then.
Well, remind them the pilots do it every single flight and it's required.
Mm,
And then what's interesting about the aviation checklist, okay, like a big plane like the Dreamliner, there might be 100 things on it. They don't chuck all 100 things at the pilots.
yeah,
It's chunked like pre-taxi, pre-takeoff. So you might have 5 to 7 things in each chunk that you have to check.
that's a great way of breaking it down.
It's broken down into different parts of the flight. When they first get in the cockpit, what do they check?
Yeah.
They're getting ready to taxi, pre-takeoff. When they leave on tower control, see, those are different parts of the flight. And I've actually looked up the checklist for really big airplanes. And there's no more than about 8 things, 7 things in each chunk. And that's based on some studies done with working memory. Chunk it. It's put into, you don't just take the 100-item checklist and throw it at them. See, aviation learned some things that'll apply to a lot of other things. And there's a book called The Checklist Manifesto.
Okay.
And pilots and aviation people actually been training surgeons to do checklists. So they don't leave things inside of people with really bad results.
Ah, and again, that is such a great way to help anyone in their daily life who, like my son, who
Yeah,
can't remember the steps. That is
that's right.
great advice.
Yeah, it's kind of an external working memory. And that's something that's come up over and over again. Another thing that's come up over and over again is changing bosses. That's a risky time for people on the spectrum. I almost lost a job when I changed bosses. I didn't recognize the warning signs.
That is so insightful. Yeah. So what do? How do you help someone transition to a new boss?
Well, I was working as livestock editor for a state farm magazine, and the magazine was sold. We got a new boss, and the nice lady who did the advertising layout said, Jim doesn't like you. I didn't recognize the warning signs, and so Susie, who did the ad layout, said, we got to get a big scrapbook of all of your articles and show them to Jim. He didn't realize how much stuff I had done until I showed him this big portfolio. But if
Wow.
Susie hadn't warned me,
Mm-hmm.
I would have lost that job. And I think she was on the spectrum.
Oh, you do?
Yep.
Did you recognize like
I'm
what
looking
was
back
it?
at it now, I do.
Okay.
But she saved my job.
Wow.
And that was
Yeah.
when I first started. I was in my 20s at that time.
Yeah. And that's hard too. It is hard for our community to keep the jobs, to understand simple tools that will help them, right? And gosh, you've given us so many today. I love learning, and I've been doing this a long time, and you taught me a lot today.
Well,
So,
these are things that I've been doing these talks for a long time, and
yeah.
I'm finding that certain things come up all the time. Changing bosses, the pilot's checklist, how important that is. And let's avoid the chaotic multitasking jobs. A super crazy busy takeout window.
Oh, yeah.
Probably be better to avoid that.
Mhm.
There's plenty of other good jobs.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
chaotic multitasking, crazy stores at Christmas time.
Mm.
You see, and I tend to think of specific examples of things that didn't work. It was an 18-year-old girl put in a chaotic clothing store at Christmas time, and that did not work.
No, no, she would have. Yeah. So, what are, just off the top of your head, some good jobs for us to try with our young adults that
Well,
are?
just there's a lot of jobs be good to try. I think for the visual thinkers, things like fixing cars, auto mechanics,
Yeah.
now things like welding, you want to get into the creative welding. You don't want to just be welding rebar on a bridge,
Yeah.
or you want to be doing the creative stuff. There's a great program in Denver called TACT, like Danny Coombs, teaching autistic citizens trades. They teach auto mechanics, they teach welding. And I went and there was little flowers that one of the kids had made with a young adult out of nuts and bolts out of the supply shelf. That's the person I want fixing my factory equipment. And he can look at bolts and nuts and stuff and see flowers in it.
Wow.
That's the kind of person that can fix stuff in a factory.
Yeah.
And then you want to take a nice picture of that flower. It was on a cluttered workbench. So I picked it up and put it against a blank wall and took a good picture of it. And it's in my slideshow because you need to show off the portfolio of your work and have it presented nicely.
Mm-hmm.
That guy did a great job detailing cars, but weren't photographed very well. get your cars moved out somewhere where the background isn't so cluttered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great
Where you
idea.
can really show it off what you've done. You can do before and after pictures. This is what the interior of this car looked like. This is what it looked like when I got done with it.
Yeah.
You
Just
know, I learned to sell my work rather than myself. That was one of the things I learned to do. I sold jobs by showing off my drawings. That's how I sold jobs. The thing is, I'm just seeing so many kids where everything's done for them. They're not learning the
Yeah.
most basic skills. Starts
Mhm.
with chores for little kids.
Yeah.
But it's never too late to start. There's been adults that have been recluses in their rooms playing video games, and they've been weaned off of that with auto mechanics with
Mhm.
some very good results. And you
Yeah.
wean them slowly, and you've got to find the right person to work with them. Maybe somebody just has a small shop that's willing to work with them. And then how about the noise of the equipment?
Yes.
Have them go into the shop that's not busy and take the electric drill where they make all the noise with it. They make the noise with the equipment they tolerate it better. They take an electric drill, let's drill metal, wood, plastic, whatever makes a big racket. And
Yeah.
they are doing it. That's the important thing to do.
That makes sense.
The thing is, I'm really concerned about the job stuff because
Yeah.
I have all these grandparents come up to me that have good jobs and then they get diagnosed later in life and it helps them with their relationships. It's like a relief. That's
Yeah.
where the diagnosis is good. But I'm seeing too many fully verbal kids where the diagnosis is holding them back. The
Yes.
parents don't think they can do anything. And the most basic stuff, shopping, driving, bank account. One of the problems now with all the online stuff, it's less concrete. Well, then we print out the statement. Let's do
Yeah.
some things to make it more concrete.
Mhm.
Another interesting thing I had an autism consultant tell me about, and I never thought about it before. He says they have time blindness. I didn't have that. And I got to thinking, this is a younger person, this autism consultant. And I got to thinking, maybe that has something to do with digital clocks. Because one of the ways I learned about time was we had a big old school clock like this, and the second hand would go around, and then the minute hand would go click, and you could see it move. Those clocks are still available. You can still get them. They're battery operated, but the minute hand still moves. You can see it move. But that really taught me the passage of time. Then I could look at that clock and go, breakfast is at 7, lunch is at 12, dinner is at 6. You see, and you can see that on the clock face.
Yeah.
Because I never heard anybody talk about time blindness. Well, we
No.
didn't have digital clocks when I was a child. I'm not saying not to have them. I'm fine with them now.
Yes.
Absolutely fine. But
Mhm.
maybe as a child, I would have had more problems with that. But the thing, I remember looking at that big school clock, and I'd recommend with kids getting those. They're not that expensive, and they just run with a battery now. You have to get the big ones. They're
Yeah.
still available.
So simple and most of us don't think about, so it's so insightful. You have been a joy to talk to.
Well, it's good to talk to you, and I hope that my information is going to be helpful.
Well, I'm pretty sure it is because like I said, I've been doing this a while and I learned a lot today.
Oh, and I have a new little book called Autism and Education, little tiny slender book, packs
Okay.
a lot of information, but it's a really good book to give a new parent of a 3-year-old that's freaking out about the diagnosis.
Oh,
Instead of handing her a big dictionary-sized thing. And there's
mhm.
another book on sensory and another one on adolescence, but I pack a lot of information into a small book, and that's a really good thing to give the new mom of a 3-year-old.
That is good. And where do we get that? Where can we
You
get?
can buy it online, Temple Grandin,
Okay.
Autism Education.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to get that because
Yeah,
I work with moms all the time.
especially for the newly diagnosed young kid. That's a good book. And
Uh-huh.
then another interesting book I have is Different Not Less, and that is older people, about 18 of them, telling their stories after they get diagnosed later in life. I was the editor for that, and I got a lot of insights from that.
What is one that you can think of?
Well, I didn't fill it up full of computer nerds, though I do have those in there. The first one was a tour guide at a history museum. And she had to, she had some of the same problems I didn't recognize some of the warning signs at work. And then there's one lady who works for Intel, and her boss said to her, I want you to think about this. Would you have become high up in Intel if you'd known your diagnosis earlier?
And what was her answer?
Oh, she said yes. She did. She had nothing to hold her back.
Ah, wow.
But I have a variety of these people are all successfully employed, from doctor, veterinarian, computer person, advertising executive, tour guide, an aide in a nursing home. I deliberately picked a very wide variety. So people can't say, well, you just filled it up full of computer techies. I didn't. Yes, I've got 1 or 2 techies in there. And the tour guide is the first, and it's written in their own words. And we had a format to stop the rambling. I had a format they had to follow. Childhood, work, and they had to follow a format. But it's in their own words. And then I put subtitles in a lot of them, but I wanted it in their words. A lot of older people teenagers would find that book interesting. I found editing it extremely insightful.
I'm wondering, I know you've got these plants to fix and basic writing on how-tos, but what do you have left to teach us?
Well, I still teach my classes in basic cattle handling. And I'm finding now that, well, we still have to teach beginners.
Yeah.
Because 90% of the students coming in animal science have no animal experience. We still have to teach flight zone, point of balance, how you position yourself to move an animal.
Yeah.
We'll have to teach basics. And that's really important because you have new people coming in all the time.
I can see that for a lot of different careers, but that's a great example of one for sure. I have just really enjoyed our conversation. I hope that you and I have many, many more.
That's really good. And I want to see these students get out there and become everything they can be. And ideally, I'd like 2 jobs under the belt before they graduate from high school. Then when they're in college, career relevant internships that they do each summer, these kinds of things, because it's best to have a gradual transition from academic to work, not a sudden one.
Yes.
And I was kind of entrepreneurial when I was a teenager. I had a little sign painting business. And these metalworking shops that I worked with, they start out really small, little tiny shops and grew. And they might just fix some gates in the stockyard at a plant. And then the next job, they give them something a little more complicated, then something a bit more complicated. And then 15 years later, 30 years later, they're building entire plants. And they hire the people that can do the algebra. They work for the visual thinker.
Such an important lesson and so much to think about.
You've got people that can't do algebra that have had very, very successful businesses making like highly specialized tools that require precision machining.
I think it's important for us to pay attention. I'm going to be thinking about how I can apply everything you just taught me today, and I can't wait to speak to Joseph. And we're going to start working on how he can put his gifts out into the world. But right now, he's very happy, independent, and so I'm very thankful. Yeah, very thankful.
That's good. And how long has he had the custodian job?
Wow, he's going on 3 years.
3 years, okay. Well, you see, and then sometimes custodian jobs can lead to little things of fixing things. So you fix the toilet.
Yeah.
And then you start that this is how a lot of people get started that don't have the degrees. You say, well, the stuff I did what's called industrial process equipment. Don't touch the structure of the building. Don't mess with electrical. Touched everything else.
Oh, what a joy you are.
Okay.
I want to say on behalf of all of us, thank you for teaching us, showing us, and being willing to talk to us about your life, the way you see things. Well, I hope you come back and visit with me again. Thank you.
Well, great to talk to you.
If you enjoyed this episode as much as I have with Dr. Temple Grandin, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and help Joseph and I spread knowledge, hope, and inspiration out into the world. And I'll see you in our next episode. All right, great to talk to you. I'm going to sign off.